Welcome to Get Started Investing, a podcast where we help you learn to invest in 15 minutes or less. Each episode, we take one real-world business story and apply a key investing lesson to help you build your investor toolkit. If you're joining us for the very first time, welcome. We strongly recommend that you scroll up and start at episode 1. And just a reminder before we start, we're not experts, we're not financial professionals, and we are not licensed. We're here learning just like you, and nothing on this podcast should be taken as advice. But with that said, let's crack on. My name is Bryce, and as always, I'm joined by my equity buddy, Ren. How are you going?
I'm very good, Bryce. Good to be back. We are recording a couple of days before your wedding.
Yes.
This will be released after your wedding.
Yes.
So congratulations.
Thank you. Yes.
Nervous?
No, I'm not.
Really?
Yeah, I'm feeling quite zen, which is nice.
That's good.
Yeah. I think it's just because there's been so much happening leading up to it. I probably haven't had the opportunity to think about what to be nervous about, if you know what I mean.
Well, should we talk about some things you could be nervous about?
No. Let's not. Let's just see what happens and how it unfolds on the day. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, it should be a lot of fun. But we're here to talk about something that gets people almost as excited as your wedding, which is ETFs.
ETFs, that's right. And today, Ren, we're looking at some of the most popular thematic ETFs of 2022.
Yeah. So the ASX release an investment products report every month, and I've cracked out Excel. It's been a while.
Nice.
So I haven't had to do it as much in the old media business as I did back in the retail days.
Yeah.
But dusted off the skills, sorted some columns, unmerged some rows.
Nice. Coloured a few things.
Yeah. And we just wanted to have a look at what are the most popular thematic ETFs. We looked at August, which is the most recent report.
Okay.
And I guess there's a number of key takeaways about all of the exchange-traded products on the ASX. And then we've pulled out the top 5 most popular thematic ETFs based on the amount of money that investors are putting into them.
Yeah.
And so then we're going to talk about the 5, what their top holdings are, what they track, and just, I guess, give a sense of where investor money is going at the moment.
Follow the money.
Yeah. Obviously, none of this should be taken as advice. Just because people are putting money into an ETF doesn't mean it will perform well.
Yeah.
But I think it's just an interesting look at what's out there. And I think that leads to our first takeaway, which is there's a hell of a lot out there.
There are, and this is just listed on the ASX, not even to mention what would be available in a broker if you had access to the US or Europe, but there are 258 ETPs or exchange traded products. You could pretty much say ETFs on the ASX. So talk about the feeling of being overwhelmed when you start your investing journey. You log in and you type in ETF and 258 options pop up.
Yeah. There's a show out there that someone's going to do, not us, where they do an ETF a day, every working day. Because isn't there about 250 working days in the year?
Yeah.
You just have to hope they don't release any
Well,
more.
we could do that.
It would be pretty boring.
It would be very boring. So that's the first 258 ETFs or ETPs listed on the ASX, growing every week with the beta shares, now Global X, iShares, all constantly releasing new products to market. And we'll go through some of the thematics in a moment. But the second takeaway, Ren, Australia, not surprisingly, has a bit of a home country bias.
Yeah. So this was looking at the biggest inflows across all the 258, where in August the most investor money went. And I should have kept this quiet and had you guess, but really there is no prizes for guessing. Number 1 was BetaShares Australia 200 ETF, and number 2 was Vanguard Australian Shares Index ETF. BetaShares tracks the top 200, the biggest 200 Australian stocks. Vanguard tracks the biggest 300 Australian stocks. So Australians are putting money into Australian ETFs.
Stacks of money, yeah. The A200, that's the ticker for the BetaShares one, and VAS. You just see it so often in the FIRE community, particularly. Everyone jumps on VAS. So, look, it's good to see that people are buying up, that's for sure.
Yeah, and they were the only 2 ETFs in August that had net, so inflows minus outflows, net more than $100 million go into their funds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love that. Do you have either of those in your portfolio?
Yes.
Nice.
Okay, so first takeaway, there's a hell of a lot out there, 258 exchange-traded products. Number 2, Australia has a home country bias. The biggest inflows are going to Australian funds. What's our third takeaway, Bryce?
Third is that with 258 products on the market, there are a mix of ETF providers in the top 5. So good to see that there's a bit of competition out there.
Top 5, not in terms of the amount of products listed, but top 5 in terms of funds that are attracting the most money.
Yeah. So the number 1 is Beta Shares.
With that A200.
A200. Yeah. Then Vanguard obviously come in with number 2 and 3 with their VAS. And the third was...
International Shares, VGS.
VGS, not surprising. VanEck, good to see VanEck up there. Smaller provider here in Australia, but pack a punch.
Yes.
Number 4.
Theirs was QUAL, number 4.
Qual.
International Quality ETF.
I am always skeptical about those quals,
Okay.
but and then SPDR, which is iShares.
No, that's State Street.
Sorry, State Street.
Yeah.
They've come in at number 5 with another qual. Is it?
ASX 50.
Oh, ASX 50.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's a
What are you going to say?
boring ETF.
So I guess it's good to see that there's a spread of ETF providers in the top 5. BlackRock, iShares would be steaming that they're not in the top 5.
True.
And the other one, the other big one that isn't in there is ETF Securities, which is now called Global X.
Yes.
So they're probably the major ETF providers. There's obviously more, but there's choice.
So we've got a lot of products out there, home country bias, a lot of providers also playing in the top 5, and then finally, Ren, what's our 4th key takeaway?
Yeah, before we get to the top 5 thematics, we've got one more, which is there's some bears out there. And obviously the market is down at the moment, in case you hadn't heard. And it's good to see that a lot of these funds are having inflows when the market is down. Investors are buying the dip. But number 6 and number 11 in terms of most money attracted in August were short ETFs. And so they make money when the market is down. Number 6 was Beta Shares US Strong Bear ETF. BBUS. And then number 11 was a BBOZ, which is Australian Bear ETF. So they, for every dollar the market, or every percent the market goes up, they go down 1%.
Yeah.
They're not leveraged.
They're not leveraged.
Yeah. And so there's some bears out there in the Australian investor community who think the market's got further to go down and are trying to make money on that.
So, Ren, of all 258 ETFs on the ASX, you've crunched the numbers and we've pulled out the most popular thematic ETFs for the month of August.
I've crunched the numbers.
What we mean by thematic is...
filter, sort column, highest to lowest.
So this is excluding all of those broad-based index ETFs. There's no S&P 500s, there's no ASX 200s, there's no Japan, there's no China. We're taking away all of that. And this is focusing on those big thematics that we've often spoken about. Energy, marijuana, you name it. We've crunched the numbers. So let's do it. What was the most popular?
Do we want to go 5 to 1 or 1 to 5?
5 to 1.
Okay, well, let's start with the 5th most popular, Beta Shares Global Cybersecurity ETF. Hack is the ticker.
Yes, so this is an ETF that tracks companies that are involved in provision of cybersecurity or all things cybersecurity. And with the latest Optus breach, there's probably no more timely a moment to be discussing it. So
this was August data and it was number 5. It would be fascinating to see what the September data looks like when the ASX release it in the month of the Optus hack.
True.
So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, it's a global ETF that tracks, quote, leading companies in the global cybersecurity sector. And so the top 5 holdings, let me know if you've heard of any of these companies: Broadcom, Infosys, Cisco Systems, Palo Alto Networks, CrowdStrike Holdings.
Palo Alto, but not many of the others.
Yeah. I love that ETF holdings are public, and so if you want to find out companies in a particular sector and then do your own research on them, it's a really good way to discover new companies. But yeah, so number 5, BetaShares Global Cybersecurity ETF hack.
So it was up 5% for the month of August, but is down, no surprises, down about 23% year to date. So Ren, number 4, this one always pops up, and that is the VanEck Gold Miners ETF, an ETF that tracks gold miners. No surprises there.
What you'll find is with all these ETFs, it's in the name.
It's in the name. Now, top 5 holdings, some big gold miners: Newmont Corp, Barrick Gold, Franco Nevada Corp.
I think that's meant to be Nevada. I think that's a typo.
Franco Nevada, Agnico Eagle, and Wheaton Precious Metals. So global gold miners by the sound of it.
Yeah. Definitely global. And
with what's going on with the gold price at the moment, it's no surprise.
What's going on with the gold price?
I don't know.
There you go. Moving on to number 3. BetaShares Global Uranium ETF, ticker URNM. Uranium obviously getting a bit of buzz these days with energy crises around the world, transition to net zero. What role does nuclear play? France has nuclear. Germany was about to shut its last 3 nuclear power plants, keeping them online. Japan restarting nuclear. There's a bit of buzz. So this is giving people exposure to a portfolio of leading companies in the global uranium industry. Top 5 holdings. Tell me if you've heard of them. Cameco Corp, NAC Kazatomprom JSC, Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, Uranium Energy Corp, and then Paladin Energy.
All right, and before we move to the final 2, I am surprised to see uranium. I would have thought there would have been a lithium in there before, or when I was thinking about what the top 5 thematics might have been, but
I think it's important to stress these aren't the top 5 in terms of most money in the fund. This is movement in August.
Yeah, most popular for the month. All right, coming in at number 2 is the BetaShares Global Energy Companies ETF. Top 5 holdings: Chevron, Shell, ExxonMobil, ConocoPhillips, and Total Energies.
Yeah, just the oil majors.
Oil. Yeah. No surprises there.
Yeah, so that's fuel. I think you hear a little bit about, you've definitely heard a little bit about that this year, given what's going on with the energy companies. But Bryce, we are getting close to our 15 minutes, so give me number 1.
Give me number 1, and it comes from a provider that didn't make the top 5, but that is iShares.
There we go.
Global,
got it.
Global Healthcare ETF. The ticker is IXJ. The top 5 holdings are some of the biggest healthcare providers around the world: United Health Group, Johnson & Johnson, AbbVie, Pfizer, and Eli Lilly. Yeah.
You say from around the world. I say all listed in the States.
Yeah, fair call. And it was significantly larger than in terms of total inflow for the month of August than some of the other ones in that list. So a big sort of bias towards healthcare for investors here in Australia.
Did that surprise you?
It did.
Yeah, same. Because everything else, I was like, this makes sense. Like cybersecurity is like always a popular one. Gold miners, people are trying to hedge risk. Uranium and energy is just a big conversation these days. But healthcare is a thematic. I was 2 years ago, middle of COVID, understood why that would be number 1. But I was wondering, like, what was it that drove interest in healthcare?
Yeah. Can't tell you.
That's okay.
I think my biggest takeaway here, Ren, and something that, this is why I love ETFs. It's clear that investors during the month of August are trading some of the big trends and thematics that are happening at a macro and global level. As you said, energy, uranium, gold, cybersecurity. ETFs give you the ability to not worry about picking individual stocks in these spaces. If you're bullish about a thematic, or you can see how it's going to play out over a period of time based on what's going on in the macro, you can take advantage of that through purchasing ETFs like this. So that's why they're such a great vehicle.
Now, my final takeaway, and I want you to tell me if you think this is good or bad, or if you're indifferent. We said that BetaShares A200 had the biggest net inflow in August. The top 5 thematic ETFs, if you add up all of their inflows together, about 20% of what went into A200.
Wow.
So in terms of like the weighting of where the money is going, it's not really into thematics compared to those massive broad-based index ETFs.
Yeah.
Good thing, bad thing, or indifferent?
I think good thing.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I think as we've heard from many investors over on Equity Mates Investing podcast, this is a time where building that core portfolio is something that they're kind of focusing on.
Yeah,
so,
it's like it's really easy to get seduced by the sexy themes of uranium or whatever, but like people are just buying broad-based market indexes. It shows that like investors are sort of just plodding along, doing what they need to do.
Yes.
Anyway, not advice, just an interesting observation.
That's it, Ren. Well, that has we've kicked over our 15 minutes, but those are the 5 most popular ETFs for the month of August. We'll leave it there, and we'll pick it up next week.
Sounds good.